We're going to transition from what's going on in California to another firestorm that's taking place on the West Coast in New York. This episode, I'm going to try to be quick with this one here because to me, it's just something still I'm trying to wrap my brain around. But it is, and probably going to go in the history books as one of the most historical moments in American politics. For the first time ever, a president-elect has been sentenced for a felony conviction just days before taking office. Now, as you're aware, Donald Trump was sentenced in New York over what they call a hush money case. And if you had been following it or really knew anything was going on, it was a legal expense toward a non-disclosure agreement. Now, I know a lot of people say, "Oh man, don't take up for him." Well, it's kind of let's step back because I gotta look at this fairly. It's the same thing that's going on with Fox and the young lady, Miss Faraji. I'm pretty sure she had a non-disclosure from some of the legal people I've been, watching. There's sometimes payments tied to NDAs. There's all type of restrictions and compensations tied to them for periods of time, installments, whatever, But at the end of the day, I had some friends of mine that say, man, 34, well, it's one thing 34 times. So if you look at it that way, some people say, well, he was overcharged. It was a check, an invoice, and then something that was written down in the ledger that happened 34 times, 3 times a month. So you look at 34 accounts and you be like, oh my goodness. But it's one thing 34 times. And, what was the sentencing though? An unconditional discharge, which means no jail time, no fines, no probation. I know, you confused like me. What was this for? But let's not be confused now. It's a win for him, but not really. Because the conviction that he gets remains on his record, making him, as a lot of people proudly, for some reason, like to say, he'll be the first felon to assume the presidency. Now, I know you got questions about this case, so I'm gonna hit the top 3. That's on everybody's mind. What is an unconditional discharge? And basically it's a slap on the wrist. It's a legal slap on the wrist, which means that Trump is convicted. He faces no further punishment, and you got to be asking yourself, what was this all about? Well, the judge, he justified his decision by citing Trump's unique status as president-elect, and concerns about interfering with his ability to govern. It's like double talk, because even though you're not gonna do anything, you still got the felony on his record. You still giving people who don't like him, who didn't vote for him, which is a small amount considering how much he won by. You still giving those people the opportunity to say, but he's a felon, right? Now, here's the thing. The conviction, it doesn't erase anything. It stays on his record. It is likely to go, most likely going to follow him throughout his career. Now, there's some critics out there that argues that this sets a dangerous precedent for powerful figures avoiding accountability. And some believe it's a fair, compromise given the circumstances. Now, I want to know what you think. Do you think that this sets a bad precedence moving forward for powerful people taking accountability or avoiding accountability? Because if so, we still have a sitting president that I've been paying attention to and some of the things he's been doing before he gets out. But the precedence has been set. Do you think it's fair? Given the circumstances, let me know. Now, the second question, and this is where things get tricky. Now, they've already filed an appeal. They've already said they're going to run this thing up the ladder. A couple things that he pointed out was the fact that, the evidence that related to his former lawyer, the disbarred lawyer, Michael Cohen. Well, he was found guilty. He pleaded guilty on his case, and the judicial system allowed all that to come into play into Trump's case. Now, additionally, there was some concerns about how salacious, details like alleged affairs with, Stormy Daniels and others, all this stuff was allowed into the case, and it had very little to do with falsifying business records. And I was watching another legal analyst. He labeled what the prosecution did as he called it skunk evidence, where meaning that they bring in evidence to stink up the jury's perceptions without adding any real meat to the bone. Now, however, overturning a unanimous jury verdict on appeal, they say it's slim to none, given it happens in the New York appellate courts. I think they got like a 4% success rate. You can get your stuff overturned there. But a lot of legal analysts are saying that this thing never should have been brought to trial. Now, you let me know what you think. Do you think this should have ever been brought to trial? I'd like to know what you think about that one. Now, the third is, and I think pretty much is it's up to you, is legally speaking, there's nothing right now that can stop Trump from assuming office, despite the fact he's a felon, convicted felon. But, there's no constitutional barriers to a convicted felon, serving as president. And like I said, symbolically, what does this mean? Well, it means we in uncharted territories. Now, people that support Trump, you can say they fuse the narrative of political prosecution, the witch hunt, buzzword they throw around. And you can say that apply in a lot of different areas, because we got a lot of different legal cases going on. I mean, Jay-Z can say this is a witch hunt. Diddy can say this is a witch hunt. Everybody can apply this in some shape, form, or fashion to what's going on the other side. Because it's, Trump. I mean, for some reason, that dog don't hunt for him. But in recent polls, it's turning out that everybody's agreeing with him that the justice system, is having its challenges right now. It needs to be looked at, and I think that's what's going on in a lot of Americans' minds. What's going on with our justice system? Now, on the other hand, you have people arguing that having a convicted felon in the Oval Office undermines public trust in government, institutions, and sets a bad precedence for future leaders. And in some shape, form, I agree. What's good for the, what they say, what's good for the goose, good for the gander. You don't want political leaders all over starting to be convicted of felons and still being able to run. Even though we got a lot of local government officials in hot water for a lot of bad things they've been doing behind closed doors while everybody been focused on President Trump here. Now I say this. The question is, where do that leave us? This case here highlights, division in America's views on accountability for sure when it comes to public figures. Second, it raises questions about whether our legal system can truly hold powerful individuals accountable without being seen as a political move. And finally, it leaves Trump with an uphill battle. It's not just legal, but also in terms of public perception as he prepared to take office here soon. Under a cloud of what's considered an unprecedented cloud of controversy. Now, I want to know what you think about this historical sentencing, man. Does it change anything how you view President Trump, upcoming presidency? You looking forward to the first 100 days? Should he have faced a harsher consequences or none at all? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Because if you feel this way, then you definitely gonna want to stick around and lend your opinions and views on Jay-Z's